Sometimes, in order to understand the present, we need to travel back to the distant past. We need to put on special glasses that help us to see what hides beneath the layers of history that have been building up like sediment over thousands of years. Science provides us with these glasses, giving us a new perspective on reality. The Venetian lagoon started to form between 6,000 and 7,000 years ago when the sea flooded the coastal plains of the Upper Adriatic following the end of the last ice age. On the other hand, rivers have always continued to carry sediments to the plains. This is one of the main factors that makes this territory ephemeral, a place that's in an ever unstable equilibrium between two opposing forces, the rivers and the sea. The destiny of the lagoon might have been very different from what we witness today, as it is also the result of a complex balance that human societies have been able to achieve over the course of centuries. The first human settlements in the lagoon date back to around 7,000 years ago. And by the end of the 13th century, the city of Venice was one of the largest in Europe with a population of 100,000. The lagoon became a natural refuge for Venice, where it gathered, maintained, and developed its power across the Mediterranean. In the 15th century, in order to preserve its natural defences, the Venetians diverted the main rivers that flowed into the lagoon to their advantage, contributing to the manipulation and evolution of the lagoon territory. There is a rich archive of maps that document these changes. The scientific community has been able to combine data from these maps with information gathered using modern technology that has recently allowed us to uncover what lies beneath the water. A hidden world of seafloor structures, archaeological remains, and previously unknown underwater habitats. The flow of the tides and the shifting geology define the complex mosaic of habitats and the biodiversity of the lagoon bed, an environment that is deeply influenced by human activity. Highly detailed data collected using a multi-beam echo sounder exposes the signs of human-induced changes, such as erosion caused by man-made structures and by boat and ship engines, damage caused by dredging, and widespread littering. Since the beginning of the 20th century, human influence in the lagoon has intensified and accelerated, leading to severe consequences for the lagoon's delicate and complex ecosystem. Between the 70s and the 90s, industrialization and the absence of environmental regulation led to widespread pollution, which, together with other human activities, led to ecological and biological degradation in several areas. During this time, the Philippine clam was introduced into the lagoon by the fishing industry, and very rapidly it colonized the lagoon bed. This was problematic because the harvesting of this species was conducted by heavy machinery that violently dredged the sediments of the lagoon bed, resuspending the finest particles in the water column, thereby limiting the amount of sunlight that could reach the bottom. This, along with the high concentration of nutrients that found their way into the lagoon, which promoted excessive growth of certain types of algae, resulted in the loss of the majority of underwater meadows, which are formed naturally by seagrass. These aquatic plants play a key role in the conservation of coastal environments. They support a plethora of biological communities, they enhance the stability of seabeds, and they protect the boundaries of salt marshes from erosion. The consequences, therefore, were not only ecological, but also socio-economic, as local fisheries were heavily impacted by the disappearance of important fish species that rely on the presence of seagrass meadows. Due to recent regulatory changes, the concentrations in nutrients in the lagoon have dropped and clam harvesting has been restricted. However, the natural recolonization of the seabeds has been significantly impeded by the limited hydrodynamic circulation that is typical of the inner areas of the lagoon. Thanks to the collaborative efforts of scientists and policymakers, seagrass shoots have been transplanted and spread throughout selected areas of the northern lagoon, where the seagrass meadows had suffered the most. The goal was to boost the growth of new meadows and to restore the fish populations found naturally in these environments, in turn leading to economic benefits for the local fishing industry. In 2018, the transplants were found to have been successful in the majority of these sites. The increased presence of aquatic plant species was backed up by an increase in macroalgae of high ecological importance and an improvement in the ecological status of fish populations. The events of the 4th of November 1966 have been remembered as one of the worst disasters to impact the Venetian lagoon in modern history. An exceptional high tide flooded most of the city, an unpredictable catastrophe that triggered a global reaction from the public as well as the scientific and political communities. In recent years, tidal records have clearly indicated a rapid increase in high tide events, all inevitably linked to human activity. Rising sea levels caused by global warming and the sinking of the lagoon bed are some of the most severe factors that are damaging the city's economy, its cultural heritage, and the lagoon ecosystem as a whole. Since 1966, the lagoon environment has been the subject of intense research, leading to the creation of new infrastructure and protocols for improved and continuous environmental monitoring, which helps in defending the historical centre and the lagoon itself. The scientific community is therefore developing tools to predict rapid changes and their implications. Instruments for investigating and understanding the changing hydrodynamics and morphodynamics of the lagoon, and for describing how the plant and animal populations adapt to such changes. Medium and long-term modelling of extreme meteorological phenomena and flooding, and tools for preventing architectural damage and structural maintenance. Like we have in the past, today we need to confront the challenges that could dramatically shape the lagoon's natural and human environments. That's why we need to rely on an efficient scientific system, driven by constant monitoring in order to predict future scenarios. These instruments could assist politicians and decision makers when planning governmental action. We need to find an overlap between social and economic needs, cultural heritage, and environmental sustainability. Venice and its lagoon should be considered a natural laboratory, an ideal platform for experimenting with and applying a new global, contemporary way of thinking.
you.